AFC West divisional matchup against the LA Chargers in Arrowhead against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are favored at 3.5 points. Drew, who you got?
I'm actually going to surprise you, I believe, and I'm going to pick the...
Leading off, we have the Packers going to Detroit. It's a NFC North rivalry game. We got Detroit favored at 3 points. Who you got?
So typically Thursday night games are defensive-less. There's usually no defense in these games. And for all intents and purposes, the Packers have had the Lions number for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, I really think that the Lions they're home in Detroit. They've been really playing great football. They've had a full week, just like the Packers have, to play in this game. But I just think the Lions are going to absolutely put it on the Packers. I would take the over. Yeah, I would take the Lions. The -3, or what is it? 3.5? No, it's -3.
-3.
Yeah, I would take the Lions. Honestly, I could see them winning by. I think it could get to at least 14. 15
you think
points.
it's going to be? You think it's going to be almost a blowout?
Yeah, I do, because I think the Lions really want to put it on them. So I think the Packers have a good team, but I think their defense isn't great. And when their defense starts kind of struggling, they've never found a way to stop the bleeding. And so I just think the Lions are just going to keep putting it on them. But I mean, I wouldn't, if there's a line somewhere that's way over 3, I don't know if I would go more than like higher than 6, 6.5. But I would, the line at 3, I would take the Lions.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Lions as well. I will say, though, I do think the Packers will cover. I think they'll lose within the 3 points. I think because it's a NFC North divisional game. Packers are a very good team. They have a pretty good offense with Matt LaFleur. I think the Lions defense the last few weeks have been giving up more points than I would anticipate. So I think that's why, I think you're right. The Lions will win this game, but I don't think their defense is going to shut out the Packers like we would anticipate. But I also give that credit to the Packers of being a really coached football team. I mean, 9-3, they've gone through their injury woes throughout the season, and this team is still, for all intents and purposes, in the running for a pretty good wild card spot. And, they're a team that is a dark horse, in my opinion, in the NFC. But I would still go Lions, but I'd have the Packers cover.
Yeah.
All right. Next game.
So you're having the Packers cover. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I have the Lions to win, Packers to cover.
Got you. Okay.
All right. So next game, we've got Falcons at Minnesota, and we got Minnesota favored at 5.5. Again, this is in Minnesota. Drew, who you got?
I'm gonna pick that's too big of a number. I'm gonna pick the Falcons to cover there. 5.5 is a big number. I don't think the Vikings have been playing big time, great. I think they're playing okay. I mean, I think obviously they're still winning football games. They're 10-2.
Right.
And I know a lot of people have been kind of dumping on the Falcons recently. Last couple of games, they haven't looked great. But I do think that when everyone starts kind of like, okay, Kirk Cousins, I'm off, he seems to come back.
Sure.
So I'm going to pick the Falcons to cover here. I would probably say the Vikings are probably going to win. I think they have a much better team overall, defensively, offensively as well. But I think the Falcons are going to be in the game at least.
Okay. So I'm going Minnesota as well, but I actually have them to go over on the spread because I think the Falcons are very vulnerable. I think Kirk Cousins is in a slump. I think as we get towards the season where the Falcons really need to step up and win good games, like big games, to stay relevant in their own division. I think them dropping to the Chargers kind of just gets them in the spiral where they're not going to be able to keep up with the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers are going to find a way to pull away and win this division. And I just see Minnesota. They had a come from behind game against the Cardinals, who were jockeying for the number one spot in their division themselves. So I really like Minnesota, and I have them going over on the spread here at 5.5.
Okay.
All right. So next one. This is actually a sneaky good game, I thought. We got Bills going to LA against the Rams, and the Bills are favored by 5 points. So Drew, who you got?
I'm actually going to I'm going to take the Bills to win, but I'm going to take the Rams to cover. It's in LA. I don't think that's bad. The Rams just came off of a pretty close win. And the Bills pretty much dominated the 49ers, and so they're feeling really good about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Going into LA, I think they're like, oh, well, it's going to be nice weather. It's going to be neutral weather. Like, we'll be fine now. So I think they're going to kind of be feeling themselves a little too much.
Uh-huh.
And so in that case, I do think the Rams are going to be covering that 5 point spread there. However, I do still think that the Bills are going to win this game. Surprisingly, it actually opened at 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of surprising so there must be something, maybe some news that we don't know, or if they're just really feeling the Bills. But I just think after a big win like the Bills had, and the Rams had a tough win, I think the games are going to be a little bit closer than what maybe most people would think.
Yeah. All right. I'm looking at. I don't see really anything on the injury report that would suggest to me that, the line moved up from, opening at 3.5 to go to 5. My only thing is I think they're riding on momentum with the Bills, I think is why they're pushing the line.
Yeah, probably.
But I would say, too, the Bills have a tough matchup defensively because, in my opinion, the Rams have a very good offense when it comes to the running back, Kyron Williams. Then you have Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford, yes, he is a little long in the tooth and he turns the ball over when he shouldn't, but he does air it out and he will challenge, secondaries. And I think the Bills are in for a long day when it comes to these weapons that LA has. However, I think that they will be beaten up on the Rams. I do have the Bills on this one. I do have them to go over, but I say that to say like 10 points. I'm not saying it's a blowout. I just think at the line being at 5 right now, I think the Bills can go over. I'd seen them winning by a touchdown or more. So that's what I'm going with.
Okay.
All right. Next one is Drew Code Sports Talk is supported by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is your go-to app for tickets, making it super easy to find the best deals. They even rate each ticket deal on a scale of 1 to 10, so you're getting your money's worth. And as a special thank you to our listeners, we've got a promo code just for you. Use Drew Code at checkout to get $20 off your first order. That's $20 off your first purchase, whether it's for the game that you've been dying to see or that concert that everybody is talking about. Head over to SeatGeek now, find your perfect seat, and use Drew Code for $20 off your first order. SeatGeek. Get your tickets to the action today. One is AFC West divisional matchup against the LA Chargers in Arrowhead against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are favored at 3.5 points. Drew, who you got?
So I'm actually going to surprise you, I believe, and I'm going to pick the Chargers to outright win.
Okay.
So the Chargers have allowed the fewest points against in all of the NFL, with an average of 15.7. So that's the best defense that you're looking at right now. You're going against the Chiefs that really struggled against the Raiders, so I think their offense is going to come out firing. But I do think the Chargers have proven that they have guys who can do really well. They're really good against the run. They're only averaging per game, allowing 119 yards rushing. In the passing game, I think this is where it's actually very surprising because they have a lot of young guys. They're only allowing 206.4 yards per game against the pass. And when you talk about Patrick Mahomes, who hasn't had the greatest statistical year this year. Yes, they're in Kansas City. I do understand that. But after a really struggling win that the Chargers had, I think they're going to come out and just completely be firing against the Chiefs, and I think that defense is going to really suffocate the offense. So I'm actually surprisingly going to pick the Chargers to outright win in this game.
So I would actually like both these teams to tie, if I'm being honest, but it's not that crazy, and here's why. I'm also going to go with the Chargers to outright win. And the reason for that is majority of the points that you had made, their defense, I think Justin Herbert, and they're getting a little bit more continuity with their passing game. I feel like Conkley is coming into form. He's kind of like, they're now like everyday wide receiver that's just catching all these big, getting all these big catch receptions and being able to get a lot of yak from that. And I feel like the Chiefs are bound to lose another game, and the Chargers, in my opinion, only lost by a touchdown in their first matchup. I feel like that this is a game where the Chiefs are going to fall to them at home. It just feels like one of those games where the Chiefs are just getting, hit on all sides. And I feel like that the Chargers are they're poised to take a game in this division from this opponent, because I don't see the Chiefs just being able to sweep the entire division. I feel like the Chargers are one of the teams in the division where they're going to hand the Chiefs a second loss in this season. So I got the Chargers to outright win.
All right, interesting. We both agreed on that one.
Yeah, wasn't that far-fetched? I was like, I'm feeling the same way. All right, so this one, really not too impressive of a game. I think what I'm intrigued by is just you have the Bengals. We're going into Jerry World here. The Bengals are favored at 5 points, excuse me. So who you got, Drew?
I'm actually going to take the Bengals to win over. The Cowboys have been competitive, but this Bengals offense at least has been really, really good. I know their defense has been bad, but I'm not really nervous that Cooper Rush is just going to throw 400 yards. I don't think he's going to keep up with what the Bengals are going to be able to do. It's sad to watch this Bengals team of how good of an offense they are and just how bad their defense is. And they're a 4-8 team. Like, by all means, they should be an 8-4 team.
Right.
If they just had you plug in Max Crosby, that's already okay. The Bengals are 8-4. I fully believe that. I just don't think the Cowboys defensively have been playing inspired football. CeeDee Lamb seems to be kind of struggling with injuries. I don't like the Cowboys run game, although, last game they were doing pretty well, but I don't think that's going to be consistent. Maybe it is against Cincinnati. I could be wrong on that one. I could see that happening, but I still would take Cincinnati over. I mean, the way that Joe Burrow has been playing, Jamar Chase, I was looking at it in fantasy. I'm in this league where it's a long story, but basically, if you're one of the top seeds, you get to pick between the two wildcard teams. Like, if you're one of the top seeds, you can pick which wildcard team you play that week. And we had a guy who had Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and I told my brother-in-law Diego, I was like, because we share the team, and I was like, maybe we should avoid that because I'm a little nervous about that one.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I don't know. So just looking at just those two guys made me nervous. So I think I'm going to take the Bengals over here.
Okay. Here's what makes it tough, because I can very much see the Cowboys winning this game because the Bengals defense is non-existent. And there's no such thing as a Bengals defense. It just doesn't exist this season, because I couldn't tell you how many games that they've lost because of their defense. Joe Burrow throws for a bunch of yards. And I said this last week, Joe Burrow is having statistically an MVP season, but his defense is letting him down. And it has nothing to do with always throwing a bunch of turnovers. No, the defense can't stop a nosebleed to save their life. Any team can just march down the field and score on the Bengals, which I think is what I'm a little bit worried about because the Cowboys offense isn't that great.
Drew Coat Sports Talk is powered by StreamYard. Want to take your podcast to the next level? Use StreamYard. It's the easiest way to record, stream, or produce high-quality episodes, whether you're solo or with guests. Plus, when you sign up today, you'll get a $10 credit to get started. Use the link in our bio. Don't miss out. StreamYard is your key to seamless podcasting.
Great. In general, against a good team, it's not very good. But against a Bengals defense, it's going to look like it's pretty good. But I'd like to think that in a shootout, the Bengals probably have an edge over the Cowboys because, again, I think the Cowboys defense is okay. Their pass rush is good. But if you can create a little bit more time in the pocket, like Joe Burrow has the ability to do, you can probably neutralize that pass rush. And you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. You have another rookie receiver that's actually kind of come into his own right now that I think is a pretty big threat in Dallas. And this is at home in Dallas. And I think Joe Burrow plays really well at Jerry World. I think he's played very well against that team pretty much his career. So I will take the Bengals in this one, but I'm going to have the Cowboys to cover because I think it's going to be closer than people think. All right. Next one up. We got the Chicago Bears going to San Francisco against the injury-riddled Niners. Drew, who you got? The line is at 4.5 for the 49ers.
This is a tough one, but I'm going to go with my gut here, and I'm going to take the Niners and the over. Okay. There's so many rules being played that is hard for me. So when you take a team that loses as bad as they did against Buffalo, I mean, Brock Purdy under 100 passing yards. I know it was snowing, everything.
Right.
Like, they were demoralized. Like, Josh Allen wasn't even that great. And that's all everyone can talk about is how dominant he was against the 49ers. Like, that's demoralizing. Then Brock Purdy couldn't even throw for over 100 yards. That's demoralizing. And then you lose Christian McCaffrey for the rest of the year. That's demoralizing. It looks like you're going to lose, what's his name? Jordan Mason as well. That's another demoralizing thing. So a lot of things are adding up here. But when you take a team that is down that bad, the next week they always come out and are just way better than the week before. It doesn't matter what kind of team it is. In the NFL, whatever team gets blown out, they end up coming back and playing really well. The other rule, though, is that when a team loses fires their head coach, the next week they always do really good. So this is a really tough one for me. So I'm going to go with my gut, and I'm going to pick the 49ers because we're focusing on, they lost Christian McCaffrey. They lost Jordan Mason. Brock Purdy didn't play that great, or whatever. Okay, well, we're playing in San Francisco. You still have Deebo Samuel, whatever he is at percentage wise. You have George Kittle, who's gonna be honestly is probably going to be the number one target in my opinion in this game. And I think is Ayuk back? I don't remember now.
Ayuk is out for the year.
Oh, he's out for I'm sorry, Ayuk. Pearsall, that's what I'm saying.
Pearsall,
I think he's going to be. He's going to come in he's going to have a bigger role. So I'm actually going to pick the 49ers. And like we talk about, that defense really got embarrassed against Buffalo. Like, and again, it's in the snow. I'm not saying the 49ers were this terrible team, but it sucks. You lost, and all anyone can talk about is the plays that happened against you. And that was, the big run by James Cook, or the big passing touchdown to Josh Allen, from Josh Allen to Josh Allen,
Right.
That's all anyone can talk about.
Yeah.
And so I think the 49ers are going to come out and they're going to be hungry for Caleb Williams. They're going to be absolutely wanting to feast on this Bears offense. And I think the Niners offense is going to benefit from that as well. So I'm going to take the over for the 49ers.
This is a tough one, as you said. I think I'm leaning towards the Bills to win outright, because of Matt Eberflus being fired.
I knew you were going to say it.
I feel like the Bears are going to respond well. This is in California, Caleb Williams' home state. I feel like he's gonna feel more comfortable to play. Again, I don't think this whole season Caleb Williams has been given the opportunity to really utilize his offensive weapons that he's had. And I think part of that is the coaching by Matt Eberflus. Like, there's Keenan Allen, who Williams can rely on. Then you have DJ Moore. You have obviously Odunze and Cole Kmet. They have a really good defense if it is able to, get off the field and give that offense more opportunity. The Chicago Bears defense is a bit underrated. I don't think it gets enough respect. And I feel like the 49ers are in such a vulnerable state. They're not going to have Trent Williams because, unfortunately he lost his newborn to a stillbirth. So, thoughts and prayers go out to that. He's not going to be in this game. You don't have Christian McCaffrey. You don't have Jordan Mason. You don't have a bunch of your key defensive players as well. And I feel like that this is just a game where the Chicago Bears come out and they play with energy just because, they had a head coaching change. They're looking to get a new voice in there. I think their interim head coach's name is Coach Thomas. He's already gotten that offense looking even better once they got rid of the once they got rid of the OC. And I just feel like that this Bears team is poised to just show that they actually have some fight in them. And unfortunately, the Niners are just in a point in the season where they're trying to stop the bleeding. It just they're just going to have to ride it out. There's nothing that they can do, because I know that they want to play to maybe get a wild card and maybe make some magic happen, but they're too injured. They're too vulnerable. To me, this is the season where the Niners are just going to go through it. And they're going to have to think about next year if they want to retool, maybe blow it all up. Like, where are we at with it? Because I think that's where we're at. I don't see Deebo Samuel. I don't see George Kittle. As much as those players are pivotal to the 49ers, how much do they have left? Brock Purdy, can you rely on him to win you games when majority of the weapons that you surround him with aren't around anymore? And that defense that you would lean on is so injury riddled right now that, yes, they're playing really well, but how much is that sustainable with your third or fourth stringers? Like, I just don't see it. I feel like this is a Chicago Bears game to win, and this is just a continuation of the Niners to fall, unfortunately, from where they once were. So I've got the Bears to win outright. All right, Drew, final game, of course. What would a pick'ems be without putting our Raiders in here? So the Raiders are traveling to Tampa. Tampa Bay is favored at 6.5 points. Who you got?
Tampa has everything to play for, and Vegas doesn't really have anything to play for at this point. The only reason we're playing is to see if we keep losing, and so I'm hoping we do. It's in Tampa Bay against a defense like a Todd Bowles defense. We don't do well against like good to average defenses. We don't do well. I'm picking the Buccaneers over. I think they win this outright. I don't think I just don't think the Raiders can be competitive. Like, I just believe that Baker Mayfield is a surgeon when it comes to the middle of the field, and I think that's where we're most vulnerable. And I believe that excuse me. I believe that Aiden O'Connell is going to struggle in this game. I think he could get probably over 200 passing yards, but I could see him having a pick or two, or maybe like a pick and a fumble or something like that. I just see a couple of turnovers here and there, and that are going to do us in. And I don't think a running game, as well as McCormick played last week, I think that was a shocker. I don't think the Buccaneers are going to allow that this week. So, okay.
So I'm going to go with the Buccaneers as well. However, I am going to have the Raiders to cover because it is 6.5 points. I think I can trust the Raiders defense to play well against Baker Mayfield. At least I hope.
One of you said that.
Yeah, right. Well, the last time we met Baker Mayfield, he literally walked off the bus for the Rams and went 94 yards to beat us on that Thursday night football game. which I still remember.
Oh, great. That was
great. I do think that the Raiders can cover the spread here. Tampa, I do foresee winning. I think a couple of shining lights here is that Nate Hobbs is questionable, so he might be back. That's a huge piece of our secondary that we could really use right now because we are really banged up there.
Just shut him down.
We also have Madison.
Trying to get a number one pick here, guys.
put in the practice squad. Obviously, we have Madison, who's potentially coming back, and then Zamir White, which I don't think he's going to be that utilized in the offense. But I do think that with the defense playing with pride, do I think that we're going to win this game? I think that's a long shot, but do I think that we can lose by less than 6.5 points? I think so. So we'll see. But that's what I would say is I got the Buccaneers, but the Raiders to cover.
Can we lose, within 6 points? I think we could.
I think we can.